Hey guys, Unrested here, and this is Osoroshii Saturday. It is Asia's darkest and scariest tales, myths, and legends. And I'm finding very recently that simple is better when it comes to this series. I used to put over a week of editing into a 10-minute little clip of a short story that I would tell, and those aren't nearly as popular as last week when I just sat in front of a camera and talked for 40 minutes about true to life horror stories. So, that works, let's do it. Here's three more true is up to you whether or not you want to believe it or not, scary stories from Japan. And once again, these are three tales told to me by friends. None of these I experienced myself, although I did meet people involved in these stories. All the people telling me the stories are not paranormal experts or really that interested in the paranormal or any bit spiritual really at all. And that's why I choose these stories, is because the people I tend to believe and enjoy the stories the most are the people who are the biggest skeptics, because they don't come across as so hooky kooky spooky ooky. More believable tales. Let's jump right in. Our first tale is called Mother's Bones. Mother's Bones. And it's kind of a weird tale. This one, I'd say, definitely has to be 100% factual. I don't see any reason why my friend would have made this up, but it was when I had first gotten to Japan, and my friend and I were meeting as many people as we could. We wanted to meet a lot of Japanese people, pretty much to make some Japanese friends, learn Japanese culture, better our Japanese, meet Japanese people who are into the same stuff as us. And that's what we had done with this situation. We had gone onto a bulletin board that was for Japanese people who were into like heavy metal and stuff like that, and we had put out some feelers for like just hanging out with any group or people that wanted to. And my friend and I were contacted by two girls. Well, they weren't girls. They were definitely women. They were in their like 30s, and they were like, "We want to hang out and talk about metal and stuff. We don't meet many guys in Japan that want to talk metal, especially gaijin, of course, because we make up 1% of the population." And so we're like, "Yeah, let's just go to a bar and have a drink and talk about metal and horror movies and stuff like that." And that's exactly what we did. We met up at this bar in Shinsaibashi, I remember. At the time, I was actually dating a girl from America. That's strange. I actually dated a gaijin for like a couple weeks here in Japan when I first got here. And so I, and my other friend who also worked at Nova with me in Akaiwa that I worked at when I first got here, all went to this bar to meet these two women, and I cannot for the life of me remember their names. And it started out pretty good. I remember the one girl was like this kind of like tall, skinny girl. She had, I know this is like a horrible descriptor, she had like a really wide nose. That's what I remember from her face. And she had like a really flat face with a wide nose. And she was really gangly and tall. But I mean, And the other girl was like kind of short and stout. And they were totally cool to talk about metal. They really knew their stuff. They knew a lot about metal, and that's all we were there to do, was just like talk about like metal bands that are popular in Japan, learn about what's popular here, tell them what we like back in our own country, tell them about indie bands that they probably never heard of because they never get to travel to Japan, and vice versa, of course. So it's getting pretty late. I've got to work the next day, and my girlfriend at the time had already gone home. She had already like drank enough and gotten pretty tired. I had only had like a couple drinks, like one or two, and I knew as the night progressively went on, the other two girls were drinking, but the one that was like tall and gangly was drinking a lot faster than me and her stout friend. But my other friend who was drinking, he was drinking as fast as her, so they were kind of just both keeping up with each other. I think they just both really enjoyed having a drink is what it was. They weren't like, I'm not talking fall down, shit-faced, wasted, trip over yourself, throw up, and wake up in your vomit type drunk. Just like, laughing more than usual, like kind of starting to slur some words and stuff like that. But for the most part, handling it. And so then it eventually becomes a point where the other gangly girl's friend decides she has to go home. She actually has a kid, and she's like, I gotta go take care of my kid. And she goes home, and it's just us two, my friend and I, and the gangly girl. And they're still drinking it up. I've pretty much called off drinking for the night because I know I've got to wake up and work the next day. And so I think it gets to be about like close to midnight. And I'm like, look, guys, I'm going to head out. I got to wake up, at like 9 or 10 o'clock the next day to make it to work from an 11 to 7 shift. They're like, okay, cool. My friend kind of gives me a look like, man, are you sure you want to go home this early? And I was just like, yeah, man, it's cool. And I didn't really think anything too weird of it. The one tall gangly girl who was still talking metal with him she's a little bit strange, but like not the kind of strange where like, warning lights go off in your head and you're like, let's get the F out of here, or you fear for your life or something like that. But I mean, she just kind of had like a bit of an awkwardness to her, like, laughing at weird times or nervous laughter in between odd pauses and stuff like that. But that's really a subjective judgment, and it's not something I'm really too into doing, so I didn't think much of it. Anyway, I leave for that night, and I head out, go to bed, normal night, fall asleep, wake up, go to work, come home from work, and I see like 3 messages on my phone that my friend had called from the night before, and I'm just like, wow, what's going on, man? 3 is like a lot for him. Like, we literally maybe send each other like 1 text a day at most. I'm not really a big phone conversation guy. I just don't really have time for it, honestly. And so he sends me a message like, dude, you gotta call me, man. I gotta tell you about what happened last night. So I'm thinking, oh man, I hope everything's cool. So I call him like, hey man, is everything okay? Like, nothing went too wild last night, did it? And he's like, well, I mean, I'm fine. But man, you left me there with that girl, dude. Like, she turned out to be really weird. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, how weird? Like, what could she have done that could have been so weird? And he's like, well, we started talking, and she invited me back to her place for a final drink for the night. And he was like, I had no, plans of hooking up or anything or like that. But while we were walking there, she started like sobbing to me about how much she missed her mother and that her mother had died. And like, I thought like maybe it had happened recently, and maybe this was just the alcohol allowing her to be really emotional. I was a bit uncomfortable because this is the first time I'd ever met her, but at the same time, if someone's mom dies, you don't mock them or tell them shut up or something like that unless you're like the cruelest person on earth. So he's like, I'm just listening. I'm just kind of nodding my head, kind of, give her an ear to vent to about how she feels. Luckily, I'm drunk, so I'm not feeling insanely out of place, but I am feeling a bit odd, even with the level of drunk I am. And anyway, we get back to her place, and she starts to, like, kind of, pull it together, and so he's thinking, okay, good, she's kind of out of this, like, she's not telling me about her mom anymore. And he said also the thing that was weird was, like, it wasn't like her mom had died, like, recently. It had been, like, 7 or 8 years ago, which I can understand it would still be a painful memory, but the way she was going on about it was as if she had just died. And when he asked, he was like, oh, did she die recently? I'm sorry to hear that. And she's like, oh, no, she's been dead for like 8 years. And, I still keep her ashes, which is common in Japan. You keep their ashes in the apartment or your house or whatever, in an urn, of course. Cremation is standard in Japan. You legally cannot be buried with your full body in Japan. You have to be cremated. And usually what you do is when you go through with a funeral, the person is cremated, the family members pick out bones and ashes that they want to save inside of an urn, and everyone keeps a little bit of that family member at their house. And that's typical. Call it what you will. It's not weird. It's cultural, and it's how it works here in Japan. So he's like, oh, okay, well, at least you've got, remembrance of her. At least you've got things to remember her by. She's like, yeah, and so she starts to calm down, get back to her house, pours him a nightcap, and starts to make some food. She's like, yeah, you want some food? He's like, yeah, that's cool. I'll eat whatever. And she's like, you don't mind if I'm the one cooking it and stuff? And he thought, like, well, that's kind of a weird question. Like, who else would cook it? Like, I'm gonna, come in there and start using your ingredients. He's like, yeah, I don't mind if you cook it and stuff. She's like, okay. And so he's kind of sitting. It's just like a mansion apartment, which means like one room. Which the setup would be like a bedroom. Where you store everything. You've got your bed, you've got your TV, you've got your computer, and then maybe there's a super small hallway that goes out to the foyer where you drop your shoes off, and a front door. On that side of the hallway, usually there's a tiny, tiny kitchen, and I'm talking like it's like maybe 2 burners if you're lucky, maybe only 1 burner if you're not, and a tiny refrigerator and a sink, and that's it. And he can kind of see into there, see her cooking, and see the TV at the same time. Kind of got the lights turned off and dimmed. The only place there is a light is kind of in the kitchen, shining over where she's cooking, and he's watching her kind of cook as he watches a little bit of TV and sips his nightcap, and he thinks, like, you know, maybe she's making okonomiyaki, which is like pretty much the equivalent to taking cabbage, smashing it, putting noodles in it with mayonnaise, and some people call it a Japanese pancake. It doesn't taste like a pancake though. She's making that, just putting all the different stuff in there. There's a lot of ingredients that you throw in there and smash down and everything. And he watches her put in thing after thing, and then he says, I saw her put like something like sugar or salt or something on it, or like some kind of, like, he thought like maybe it was powdered sugar, and he's like, what could this be? Like, why is she putting powdered sugar on okonomiyaki? Because, like I said, pancakes, but it's not like a sugary sweet pancake. You don't eat sweet okonomiyaki. It's kind of a more salty, like, you know, dinner type dish. And so he was like, oh, why is she putting that on there? So he kind of like turned his head. He's like, oh, you putting sugar on it, or what are you doing? Like, he kind of laughed, like, just kind of joking around, like figuring she'd be like, no, this is a blah 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 ingredient that he had never heard about, because who is he to tell a Japanese person how to do their Japanese cooking, right? He figures like there's probably some secret recipe I don't know about. And she's like, oh no, I hope you're not upset when I tell you this. And he's like, no, it's okay. You can put, like, you know, I'm cool with eating just about anything. And if you want to try a new taste, that's fine too. You know, I don't have to get like store-bought tasting okonomiyaki. And she's like, well, it's a little different from that. You see, every night, like, I try to make sure I eat a little bit of my mom's ashes so that my mom can live on inside of me. And when I have guests over, I put a little bit of her ashes in their food too, so that she can live on in other people. And he was like, oh, okay. And, like, you know, he did his best to answer it, like, with a calm voice and being like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. But he said in his mind, like, he's like, holy shit, what the fuck? I gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, I want to jump out the window. And he's like, oh, cool. He's like, well, hey, you know, I finished my nightcap. So do you mind if I just, like, run to the conveni real quick and grab a beer? She's like, yeah, that's okay. Go ahead. He said, he played it real cool, nonchalant. Got up real slow, because he said it was pretty easy to do since he was pretty drunk. Like, he could stay calm and keep his nerves calm. And he said he slowly walked to the door, opened it, and said, okay, be right back. Walked out, went down to the first floor, walked out to the street, and, like, this is in the middle of the city, like I said, Shinsaibashi area, Namba, Nipponbashi, Ebisubashi, super city area of Osaka. So he walked downstairs, he hailed a cab right away, booked it home. He was pretty freaked out. So that is the tale of Mother's Bones. Our next tale is called 4 People at a 3-Person Party. And this is another gaijin friend telling me another story of a Japanese person's house he went over to. This was a situation where he was actually in Japan from America, visiting from America for a short time to compete in some K1 fights. He was actually Special Forces ex-Marine. Well, I don't know, every time I say ex-Marine in my videos, Marines shout at me and are like, you're never an ex-Marine. Okay, so he was Special Forces Marine, retired, okay, but he never really retired. This dude was huge. I mean, this dude was, if you've ever seen a super muscular dude whose shoulders start right below his ears, this is how my friend looked. He was a massive dude. You know, he's 6'2", just like, you know, built like a brick house. You know, the kind of guy that if he punched you in the face, your face wouldn't bleed, it would just turn to bone dust. He's huge, and, you know, he's not really into scary stuff or anything like that. He's into his K1 training, which takes up a huge amount of his time. He works in kind of, I guess, like the amateur league of it and everything, and he's the, I don't know exactly how all the K1 stuff works. I guess like the heaviest weight there is. He fights in that category, weight class. I don't know what to say. I'm messing all this up, but this isn't the point of the story. I'm just giving you background on the main character. And when he comes to Japan, he just likes to hang out anywhere his friends suggest that has girls. He's like, as soon as he gets here, he's like, I want to see girls. He's that kind of guy. So he's a dude, bro. And so his friend recommended this cabaret club connected to a hostess club. And he was like, you know, I'm not going to pay for the cabaret stuff because that's pretty much the equivalent to a stripper in America, and it's but crazy, stupid, expensive in Japan, and not nearly as comparable for what you're paying. And so he's like, but I'll go to the hostess club, that's cool. And like, so he just wanted to sit down and chat to some girls. That's the kind of hostess club this is. Some people have written to me before and they're like, hostesses are prostitutes and stuff. It's not always true. There's some hostess clubs where literally all you do is talk to the girls. That's it. Sex is never entertained unless you go out of your way to pay this huge amount of money and take them out on these huge secret dates outside of the club and stuff like that. And that's arranged between you and the mama-san of the whole thing. It's a whole different story, a whole different setup. And there's different types, like I said. There's everything from snack bar hostesses, which are girls that you just eat some snacks and drink beer with and chat up, to the all-out full prostitute hostess, which is there only for one thing, for you to pay for sex. And he was kind of like in between this, where like you're at the bar where you can chat them up. If you wanted to someday pay an extravagant amount of money to hook up with them, you could, but my friend was not so desperate. He just really wanted to chat it up with ladies. So I guess he was a little bit of a gentleman in that aspect. He wasn't just like, out to get laid. And that's all he was doing. He's there chatting it up, and he's really good. Like, he's got the gift for gab. Like, he can just walk up to people and start talking to them, and they enjoy talking to him. He speaks zero Japanese. He's never cared about learning it. He's never had to. He meets Japanese people who don't speak any English and somehow keeps conversations going with them forever. I don't know how he does it. It's amazing. But he's got the gift for gab. Charismatic. He starts talking to people, and people seem to really enjoy talking to him. And that's how it was at this bar. He said he went in there, he started chatting it up, and eventually they even started like not charging him for drinks and snack bar and stuff like that. They just wanted to chat him up. And in fact, the place was going to shut down. He's like, all right, I'll head home. And they're like, actually, you know what? Like, we always go to an after party when this place closes at our friend's house. And tonight we all want to go there. And we would like it, if possible, like, you can go there and hang out with us, but can you walk us there? Because recently one of our friends, when we went to go meet up, we all left to go meet at that girl's house who we have a party at every night, and one of our friends didn't show up, and we're like really scared to walk there alone now without like a guy. And he was like, oh, okay, all right. So he walks with this group of girls, walks to the one hostess who's hosting this after party at her house, and by after party, I don't mean anything like crazy, wild dancing, lights, glitter. It's like they sat down, got some takoyaki at a takoyaki stand, drank a couple of beers, and popped takoyaki into their mouth and chatted it up. And that's all it was. Apparently they were a bit on edge, though. He said, like, while he was walking them home, like, they were pointing out an area where apparently one of their friends they said they don't know if she's been kidnapped or taken or murdered or what, but she's been missing for a while. And it was while they were meeting up at this girl's house before that they were going to tonight. They told him the past story where they had all finished up at the bar like usual, like they had just done that night, and they had all left at separate different times, not as a group, because that's the way it used to be until this event happened. And they all showed up one by one at this girl's house, and when they got there, the one girl wasn't there, and they're like, where's whatever her name would have been? I don't remember any kind of name. I don't think he even knew any name of this girl that had gone missing. And they're like, oh, she never showed up tonight. She left at a different time and never showed up. And then, they called the police after when she didn't show up at work the next day, and the police searched for her, couldn't find her. She didn't show up for work anymore. And it's been like something like a week, I think, that she's been gone missing, and no one can get a hold of her or anything. So that's what the topic is that night when he gets over there to their house, and he's just like, whoa, that's scary, man. Like, I hope she's okay. Like, that's really wild. And they're like, yeah, now we're kind of always scared to walk home. They each kind of tell like their own theory to my friend. They're kind of like, this is what I think happened. I think there was this one boy she was seeing, and maybe he got jealous when she wanted to break up with him, and I think she maybe got taken by him or captured by him, or I really hope she wasn't murdered by him. And another girl says, yeah, well, we had this one client, he used to come there all the time, and he was kind of like a weird otaku stalker guy, and maybe it was him. And so he goes around and he just like asks each one like what their theory is, because he's like really interested now. He's like, God, what could have happened? That's a really crazy story. You don't hear about this kind of stuff happening that much in Japan. So when you do hear about it, you want to be like, wow, tell me everything that happened. And he said, so it continues on like that, and he's gone around the table and asked each girl all their different theories, but the one girl he hasn't asked is the girl who's hosting the party at the place, and he said the whole time she's just been like, just weeping, just absolutely weeping in a corner, like non-stop crying. So he's like, dang, you know what, she must be really upset by this. I don't want to bother her and ask her like what happened, because this seems like this is too sensitive of a subject for her, and I feel like, you know, maybe even these girls should kind of like change the subject now so that this poor girl can like relax and, you know, kind of get her mind off of it for a bit. So that's what he tries to do. He tries to change the subject. He said he kind of tries to end it on a happy note and everything, heads out for the night, you know, gets one of the girls' phone numbers, and has a really good time, and says, all right, girls, you know, thanks so much for, you know, having me over. It was fun. I got to meet you guys. You know, I wish you the best for your friend. I hope she turns up. I hope she's safe. And he's like, but, you know, I'm going to be heading out of Japan like in the next 3 days, so I probably won't see you guys again, but I had a really good time. So it ends good. It ends on a good note, though. Like, he ends with like kind of a positive note and everything like that. So, and then he said, like, probably about 2 days later after that event, or I'm sorry, let me cut back a little bit. One day after that event, like the next morning, he calls up his friend at the embassy, because his other friend is ex-Marine too, and he has a job at the American embassy, or I should say the consulate. The consulate and the embassy are a little bit different. Consulate's smaller, I believe. And he calls him up and he says, hey man, like, listen to this crazy story that I heard last night. And he tells him all about how he hung out with these hostess girls and about how one of their friends had gone missing, and they were like all upset. He's like, whoa, that's crazy. He's like, yeah man, if you ever hear anything about it, let me know. Like, you know, maybe, because sometimes the guys who work at the consulate, they hear like information from the police and stuff reported to them before even like the public and the news and the media hear about it. So he would always go to him first. Same thing, I would do the same thing. I'd go to this same guy because he was my friend too, and, you know, if I'd heard a breaking story, I could get more information from this guy who worked at the consulate. And that's what he did. He told him right away, because he was like, you know, if you hear anything, let me know. I'll try to like inform these girls or something, or let them know. He was like, all right, cool, man. He said literally like 48 hours later, the guy calls him back. He's like, dude. He's like, what, man? What? And he's like, these girls, did they look like this? And he like described like what the hostesses look like and everything. And he was like, yeah, that's definitely them. And he's like, was there one girl there and she had like hair like this and like way too much makeup and stuff? And he's like, yeah, that was one of the girls there too. He's like, she had like a lot of like blue eyeshadow stuff on, like that blue stuff you put over your eyelids. I don't know what you girls call that. I don't put it on myself, so I don't know. But he said that was one big distinguishing mark of hers. And he said, well, dude, I got some crazy news for you. That girl murdered the girl who went missing, and she put her in her apartment, like kept her body in her apartment. And today police found the body in a closet because their next door neighbors were complaining of a smell. And he's like, well, what do you mean? Like, when could she have done that? The girl was already dead. How could she murder her later? He's like, no, dude, you're not listening. He's like, she murdered her last week. He's like, what do you mean, like, last week? When I was there last week? I didn't see anything happen. He's like, she was already dead, you idiot. She was dead. She was in the closet. She was dead, murdered, and in the closet rotting while you were at the party at that girl's house. And my friend said, like, he felt like all the blood. He's like, you know how in the movies they always talk about, like, blood drains out of your face or you go cold? He's like, yeah, I think that's what happened. Like, I remember even him telling it, like, as he told the story, and we're talking like a big-ass ex-Marine fucking K1 fighter dude who's massive. I remember him, like, grabbing, like, his biceps and, like, kind of, like, squeezing himself like he was cold suddenly. So, it's a pretty intense story. And, so he was there over at that girl's house, and the girl who was crying the whole time had actually been the one who had murdered her. Apparently, she had come over, they had been fighting during the night, and she had come over earlier than the rest of the girls to confront the other girl about their fight over some boy, and she murdered her in a rage, I guess, while she was setting up for the cooking party that they had every night after work. And then she just, like, stuffed her body, cleaned up, got ready for the rest of the friends to come, and acted like no big deal, like nothing had happened. I guess she was able to, like, play it off like, gosh, where's Hanukkah at? I don't know, it's just really late. Oh my god. So rude. It's crazy, right? And then he was there the whole time with a party of 3 girls, but there was actually 4 girls there. One of them was dead. So I started this video like a day ago, and I did the first story at a park, and this giant class of kids came. I had to move to another park. It started to rain. I tried to finish the 3rd story, and I had to finally take it inside my house and start this 3rd story. It is called The Falling Woman. It is about my friend Ayaka, who was studying cosmetology. I hope I got that right. That's like makeup and hair and stuff. I don't know a lot about the subject, so forgive me if I talk about it in any way and like get it completely wrong. I'm sure I will. And she had been going through all these classes. Her last set of classes were out by where her grandmother lived, and her grandmother lived about 3 kilometers away from Aokigahara Forest, which is the suicide forest. Now, people might ask me, they're like, why would somebody own a house out there, sell it, get rid of it, that's scary? Well, it had been in her family for generations, and when a house is paid off in Japan, you don't sell it off right away unless you're getting absolutely, stuck with incredible taxes. So they kept it. They're still using it. They're still living there. And she said she didn't really go out there too much ever since she was a kid, because she said anytime she'd go out there, she'd feel cold. And it wasn't like a whole body cold. It was like, she said she'd feel cold around here, around her collarbone. I just hit my microphone. That sucks. And cold like on her shoulders and like up around her neck. And so she said she always felt that way there, and she always figured it was because it's an old, dingy house with drafts that made her cold. She did not like it. And she finally had to go out there again because she had to take these classes close to her grandmother's house, and it was going to be free rent. She wasn't going to have to pay anything to stay out there. So she went out there first night. As soon as she gets there, she said right away she feels the cold around her neck, cold around her shoulders and everything. She's like, this old house sucks. Hold on, let me fix my microphone. There we go. Okay, and old house sucks. It's old. It's a house, and it's drafty. And she said, but this time it was even worse. And she said there was another problem she had while she was there, and she didn't quite understand what this was. She thought maybe it's because of the elevation. I don't know if you know exactly where Aokigahara is, but it's at the base of Fuji Mountain, which means you're on more of an incline when you're living out in that area. And she said every time she would go to the bathroom and like go down and wash her hands and then bring her head back up and look at the mirror, she felt super lightheaded. Like if you ever stood up from a couch or your bed and you felt all the blood rush out of your head and like your vision went fuzzy for a second before the blood like catches up with how you're standing. She said she'd always get that when she'd go in the bathroom. She figured it was because of the incline and the level that she was at. Maybe messing with her in some aspect. I don't know exactly how that stuff works. I know, like, if I go out to meet my friends in Colorado, I get nosebleeds really easy, and it's harder to breathe. And I'm guessing it's because of the altitude? Is that the right word to use? Anyway, you get what I'm trying to say. And she said the other problem that she had is that she was sleeping in a different bedroom than she was used to. Before, she used to use a bedroom that was about midway through the hallway on the 2nd floor of their house. It's a 3-story house. And it's not like a massive house. Usually in Japan, they just like build up, they don't build out. So this is like always these tall little like cigarette-shaped houses that are super skinny tall, but story stacked on top of story. 2nd floor, she's sleeping there in a new bedroom. She used to sleep in the mid-bedroom, which didn't have any windows. Now she's at the end of the hallway. The bedroom has a window, and every night she has the same dream while she's sleeping there, and it's really annoying her. It's driving her insane. She's sleeping, and she's in the bedroom, and in her dream, she is in the same bedroom sleeping. And she starts to hear a woman's voice outside of the window. And it's not like screaming or moaning or some kind of exaggerated horror movie woman's voice. She said it sounds like a woman talking on a cell phone or a phone or some sort of phone, and having a very important conversation. Like something is super dire or important. Like kind of just muffled tones like, oh my God, oh no, oh, okay. Like that, kind of like that the whole time. And she said it's not actually happening inside the room. It's happening in the room that's in the dream that she's in. So in her dream, she's in the same bedroom. and she's laying in bed and there's a voice outside. And every time in her dream, she thinks, I need to get up, get to the window, and tell the woman to stop talking on the phone right outside of the house. It's really annoying. Why is she talking on the phone right outside of my door? And she goes out there, and the window's slightly open. Well, she doesn't go out there. She's inside the room still. She goes up to the window. It's slightly open. The woman's talking on her cell phone. And she's like, hey, you know, can you not do this right next to our house? And she shuts it. The dream ends. She wakes up. And this happens 3 nights in a row. She has this dream. On the 4th night that she has the dream, she said, I never thought about this before. I'm going over to the window and shutting it, and this time in the dream I realize I'm on the 2nd floor. How is this woman next to my window talking on a cell phone? So this time while she's thinking that and goes to the window, she said she realizes the woman's floating in air talking on a cell phone. And as soon as she thinks that, she said, as soon as I walked up there and I'm thinking this, the woman's figure changes. It's like a kind of like a normal, she said like a normal mid-20s Japanese woman, pale skin, long black hair like normal Japanese, and talking on a cell phone in a white dress. The image changes as soon as she thinks, why are you here floating in front of my window talking on the cell phone? It's kind of almost like a lucid dream realization, like, holy crap, I'm in a dream, but even in a dream, why is she floating in the air? This is weird. And she said right away the woman turns upside down, and she looks like she's in the middle of a falling motion. Like, you know how your hair is like, if you were falling, she has long black hair, it's flowing, and her mouth is open wide. There's no scream escaping her mouth, but she looks like she's falling down. So now the dreams change. She wakes up because that scares the crap out of her as soon as she sees this image shift from a woman talking on a cell phone to a woman flipped upside down and falling. And the next night, the next 3 nights, she has the exact same dream, except this time every time she hears the talking on the cell phone outside of her window, when she goes to the window, the woman's falling upside down. She's not actually hitting the ground or anything like that. She's like in mid-fall without changing position, but like air streaming up, going around her, moving her hair, head facing down towards the ground, as if she's like, ah, like that, falling down, right? And she's like, what the hell? She keeps waking up 3 nights in a row, nightmares. And it's starting to get to her, like, you know, she's trying to study for class, she's trying to take these classes, she's losing sleep, she can't sleep up after that at all, she's totally like, oh god. And she finally is starting to get noticed by her grandmother, like, whoa, what's going on? Like, why do you look so tired? Bags under your eyes, you know, your complexion looks bad, you look like super tired. And she says, all right, I don't know what it is with this bedroom, but I've been having these dreams. And it started out with this woman talking on a cell phone, and now it's this woman falling every night and waking me up because it's just so scary when I have the dream and then I can't sleep afterwards. It's too disturbing. And her grandmother and grandfather look at each other and kind of like, and she's like, what? And she's like, okay, like, we don't want to freak you out or anything, but you know how in Aokigahara Forest a lot of people hang themselves on trees? And she's like, yeah, so what? And she's like, no one's ever hung themselves close to this house, have they? She's like, well, no, but there actually was a woman close to here who committed suicide, and she did it a different way than was typical in Japan. She actually climbed to the top of the tree in the forest, and it was a very tall tree, and she jumped from the top to commit suicide. And they said that they had also seen the ghost in their own dreams too. Pretty creepy, right? Anyway guys, that's my 3 stories. I hope you enjoyed those. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share these videos. The more you share them, the more I realize you enjoy these. People view them. I need to make more. It went really well last time with doing these 3 stories, and I hope it goes just as well this time. That being said, don't worry. There is going to be ghost footage coming up, there is going to be J-Pastas coming up, and there is going to be some actual story type stuff that I film and make my own story for. Until next time, I'm Unrested. This is Osoroshii Saturday, the darkest parts of Asia's myths, legends, and lores. Until next time, have a good one.